I love traveling. Well, not the traveling part, but being in a foreign location or a place that I've never been before. I've always been in the opinion that it will boost my creativity and it will make me a better photographer when I'm traveling, because that's how I feel. I've looked at my images and it could be that the images are, or I feel that they're better because I resonate with the image and kind of see the act of photography inside the image or in the image too. But I was thinking about this quite a bit when I was in Antibes, France, a couple of weeks ago. We had a little holiday over there, so it was not really a photographic-centric trip in that sense that I didn't have actually that much time to photograph by myself, so there were always some other people with me, so it's always, you're concentrating doing together stuff with them and not concentrating on the street photography part of the trip. Of course, I did have some time to photograph, or I went early morning walks and stuff like that to do some street photography. But I will have 5 things that might boost the creativity when traveling and 5 things that might not do that. Hi, it's Peter here, and let's get right into the business after this a bit long intro. And the number 1 for the plus side is diverse scenery. As I already mentioned it at the beginning of this video, the biggest thing is that you see new things and that boosts up the creativity because you see things a bit different way than maybe the locals. That's probably the biggest thing for me, because when I'm photographing in Helsinki, I know the places. Of course, that can be an advantage too, when you know the places, you kind of like know what to look for and where to go. But then there is no element of surprise, or not usually. But when you go out, traveling abroad or some other place that you have never been before, could be the next town or a different part of the city, even if it's a huge city. And there might be a lot more surprises around the corner. You don't know what there is, and it's kind of seeing the new thing makes the creativity a lot better. But then there's also another side on this, is that distraction from learning. Because, all the logistics and all the hassle when traveling and all the excitement that you get from your travels might also be a distraction. You don't see things because you're so excited. Everything is so new. So don't forget to calm down a little bit and observe the things, and don't rush into images, because you might see so many new things that you kind of like overwhelmed and can't really get any decent images because of that. So being in a new place might also be a distraction because of these things that I mentioned. And then number 2 on the plus side is cultural exposure. Immersing yourself into a different culture allows you to photograph new traditions. Inherent beauty of the location may overshadow the need for strong composition, lighting, and other technical aspects. But there's also lies a downside on this. If you take it too lightly and do not concentrate on the photography, just think that this is something new and feeling good, experiencing new things, I just photograph these, and those experiences might not be inside the image. Other people that watch those images might not resonate with the images because they're just, average shots of things that you saw. But then a word of warning, please make those images, because it's also a good memory for you. Don't underestimate the power of a memory when it comes to photography or a photograph, because when you go back to those images, you remember the trip and the good time you had. So it's also something to do with curating your images that you're showing to others. That's an important thing here. So separate the memory from the actual photograph that might resonate with others. And number 3 on the plus side is challenging conditions. Different weather conditions, different type of lighting, different types of scenery, and everything is different. And that's, of course, challenges you, because if you're familiar with or more used to the light at your hometown, like Helsinki is a very unique light because the sun doesn't go really that high up. But in the southern part of Europe, it's a lot higher, and even further south, it's even higher, and in equator, it's just right above you. So it's totally different. You might have different types of shadows, or the light is different character, and the air pollution and everything makes the light different. It's a lot clearer here in the north than it might be in the south, and all that challenges you, and that also is a benefit in my opinion. But of course, it can be a downside too if you're not adapting to yourself to the different conditions. But I see them as a benefit. And then the downside on this, of course, is that usually when you're traveling, you're limited a little bit with the gear you can bring. For me, not that big of a problem because I usually like to travel light. I've done that always, except a few times way back. I carried a little bit more stuff. But nowadays I only have usually one camera, one lens. It can be my XS20 Fuji camera with the 27mm f2.8 lens, or my Ricoh GR3X, which has a 26.1mm lens. And they both have the same field of view as a 40mm lens on a full frame body. So that's my go-to stuff, and I don't really carry that much. So for me, this is not a problem. But of course, if you traveling to a city and then you go birding maybe outside the city and go to the countryside and have a kind of like a diverse scenery, then it might be a problem. You need to carry a lot of stuff and you might not be able to. So that could be a downside. And if you don't have the equipment that you kind of need, that's also a learning curve. Try to figure out the way how to make those images with the existing gear that you have with you. So that can also be a plus side if you have a different perspective to it. And number 4 on the plus side is unique perspective. We talked this a little bit, but it's a little bit more than what we already discussed. Is that the scenery changes. You have different behavior of the people. You might not be able to photograph people the same way that you can do in your own hometown because of the strict laws. Like about this video, when I was visiting Geneva, I had a bit of a problem because they have very strict rules that apply to people in the photographs. That might give you a new, unique perspective. And if you can take that as an advantage, that might also help. But this too could be a slight problem if you feel that it's restricting you too much. Having unique perspectives and totally different types of scenery that you have in front of you will boost your creativity. At least it does for me. Number 4 on the minus side is the inconsistent practice. And yeah, that's what happened to me on my trip to Antibes, France a couple of weeks ago. I was not able to photograph as much as I wanted to and did not have that much free time to photograph. So that kind of was a bit of a distracting thing. So I had to limit my time, and that always limits the possibilities to get those great images. If I had like 2 to 3 days, then it would be totally different. And it did not have a long period of time, hour there and hour here. And that's of course made it a bit harder to get the best possible images, because it wasn't always the possibility to stay just to wait for something to happen like I sometimes do, which can make the images a lot better. So there are some distractions, but if there are that kind of distractions that you're traveling with a family or with someone, you can make memories and travel shots. It's totally fine. That's what I did. So I'm quite happy with the images, but I know that most of the images that I took for memories are not necessarily resonating with you. And there will be an extra thing about this after the 5th plus and minus. And then number 5 on the plus side is networking opportunities. And this is something that you could connect with the local photographers, have photo walks and all that, and get feedback from other photographers in that area. I did not do this time that. Sometimes I've done it. I've contacted a few photographers that I know and made some photo walks together, but I didn't do that time. But that's definitely a plus side, because they can be good guides and taking you to good places where to photograph and tell you about the culture and the whole thing, and finding you the best places to eat and stuff like that, which is, I think, a big part of, or good food is a big part of a photo walk. And then there is also a downside on this, and that's the language and the cultural barriers. And one thing that I already mentioned is the local laws, which you should really know, and what the practice is photographing out in the open. And of course, if you don't know the language, you might be hard time to communicating with others. But usually just a quick look and showing your camera and kind of take a photograph, and then they just say this or they nod, and then you can take the photograph. So it takes a long way. Just suggestions and all that stuff. You don't need to speak if you don't know the language. And besides, most of the people in the world, at least where I've traveled, know English you know, at least so much that you can communicate to kind of take your photograph. But of course, if you want to really do some street portraits, that might be something that is a bit hard to do if you don't know the language. It could be a downside. And the extra tip is, I recommend traveling and going different places. Not saying that you need to travel along far away. You can go to the next city or as I already mentioned, another part of the city or another place in the nature that you've never been before, because it gives you the concentration or the ability to concentrate on your photography. It doesn't necessarily automatically boost your creativity, but the thing is that if you take time off from everything, from life, well, photography is kind of part of life, but you know what I mean, from the everyday life, and you go somewhere just by yourself to photograph, I bet you will get better when you really have the time and the kind of dedication to the concentrating on that particular thing, which is photography. It applies to anything, but especially photography. If you go out and photograph by yourself and take that time, that, you know, turn off notification from your phone, turn it off if you feel like it, and just concentrate on the photographs that you're taking, and you will, or actually making, you will be a lot better. At least that works for me. And then a little conclusion about all this, and I think for me, the photography when I'm traveling is better, or I like the images a lot better. There could be this small element of feeling good when seeing those and seeing them and treating those images as memories. That's always a possibility. That's one part of it, and yeah, I admit that. No problem with that. But still, I feel that my images are better, and the reason is that what I said in the extra tip, usually I do have the time and the possibility to concentrate on photography, especially if the trip is more photographic centric trip, then 100% concentration on the photography will get me better results. If I go here in Helsinki to familiar places, there might be some everyday life things, and I might see something and remember that I have to do something, or I need to buy that, and when I see a store, stuff like that, it's a distracting thing for me. So that's why I like to travel or go to places where I haven't been before. Of course, it's interesting to see, you learn a lot. Besides getting better images and photography, you learn about the country, about the culture, and I tend to go to museums and all that. So that makes it also the whole experience a lot deeper. But what about you? Have you noticed that going to different places is good for you, or do you like to go to familiar places more? Which one do you prefer? Please let us know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the subscription button, and here is another video about street photographs or street photography that you might want to watch. But hey, thanks for watching, and bye for now.